All right, Walter, the big earthquake is coming. That's the promise that we've been hearing forever.
When does it happen? And how safe are your kids?
There are numerous buildings that have a above 90% chance of very, very severe damage or even collapse.
Why most schools in our area are not prepared for a catastrophic event. Well, this probably looks pretty familiar if you're from here. Duck and cover. It's what they tell students to do in case of an earthquake. But if the big one really does hit, many of our schools simply are not prepared for it.
And that is scary, considering the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network says there is a 15% chance a magnitude 9 earthquake is coming. Nadia Crow shows us just how prepared our schools really are.
The Pacific Northwest is earthquake country. You can see on this map fault lines surround the Puget Sound, including Des Moines.
Scares me to death. Absolutely scares me to death.
Christy Kelly has a grandson who attends Des Moines Elementary, a 91-year-old school she fears won't hold up in a quake.
It's frightening that our kids are there in a school that is fairly run down and is not prepared.
The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network says they've studied the schools that just aren't ready.
There are numerous buildings that have a above 90% chance of very, very severe damage or even collapse during an earthquake.
But many districts say they just don't have the money to retrofit schools for earthquakes.
Unless we pass a voter-approved bond, we don't have the funds to be able to make the kinds of safety improvements that we would like to make for our schools.
Voters have failed to pass Highline Public School bonds for the past 10 years, leaving students at the elementary and Highland High vulnerable.
I think that we need to find a way, even if that means that our taxes would go up a little bit. I think it would be worth it for the safety of our children.
Instead of looking at property taxes, our neighboring state of Oregon looked to the legislature.
Putting about $125 million a year into fixing their worst school buildings and have done a statewide assessment of school buildings.
The assessment of this school is clear. The solution, replace the building, not just retrofitting.
There are some ways to retrofit older buildings, but it's expensive work and it doesn't do the whole job that we need to do in terms of all the safety and educational improvements that we want to make.
So the call now is back on parents to make the change.
They need to be lobbying and making some noise with the school district to improve that. And then secondly, is it prepared? They may not be able to get to their children for a day or two after an earthquake.
And we reached out to Seattle Public Schools. They released this statement. Since 2010, the district has earmarked $100 million from capital levies approved by Seattle voters for seismic retrofits at more than 50 schools. Next week, the Highline School Board will also meet to vote if the bond issue should appear on the November ballot.